question for you.
Okay, hit me.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Scary Movie 2.
Oh.
It's my strong hand. I don't know.
A strong hand.
No, you mean actual scary movie?
Sure.
I don't know,
Yeah.
dude. The Thing.
That's a really good answer. I don't have one for you. No, I was just doing The Thing. Because tonight I wanted to do something. I wanted to do the first of three things in a series I was thinking of. Long story short was we had Paramount Plus, or my wife and I were deciding we were going to watch a movie, or to go see a movie, and we were like, what do we want to see this year together? And I was like, do you want to go see Mission Impossible? And she was like, oh, that sounds cool. I've never seen the other ones. And I was like, really?
Whoa.
So I was like, we're going to get Paramount Plus.
Yep.
So that we can watch the Mission Impossible films. So I own 4, 5, and 6 on Blu-ray. So I just figured we'll do it, every Sunday. And then when we're done with the service, we'll just switch to the discs and we'll make a thing of it,
Yeah.
So we've been doing that and it's been fun. So I was already rewatching Mission Impossible. And then while I was on Paramount Plus, I was like, I could watch all the Scream movies now. Cause I've seen 3 of them.
Okay.
But there are now 6 of them. And I was like, oh, there's 6 of these as well.
Right. I could catch up.
And then suddenly I was like, you know what? I'd like to compare them for no reason. So this is the first of what I'm going to call the ScreaMission Impossible, or ScreaMission.
ScreaMission.
Sounds kind of too much like E-Mission.
My pun was Mission Impossible Ghostface Protocol.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's much better. In fact, that might make the title, Dustin. Good job.
Hey.
All right. So I'm not going to run any trailers or anything this episode. I'm not really doing any in-depth reviews. This was just sort of something things I was watching, and I just sort of realized I've never talked about most of the Mission Impossible films on this show, and I've certainly never talked about the Scream films. And I enjoy both franchises, so I figured I would needlessly compare them to each other as I went. So upon a rewatch, have you seen any of the Scream movies?
I've seen 0 of them.
Okay. I think as a writer, you would really enjoy them because they are so heavily informed and referential to the horror genre. And as the series goes on, to themselves. So I do recommend you see them as soon as possible, because I really do enjoy them. Sure. Let's this will be short. This is just a little thing I just wanted to do.
Simple game. Is he serious?
Always.
It's much worse than you think.
We're being ambushed. Abort, that's an order. They knew we were coming. Do you read me?
I don't care how he did it. I want to know why he did it. You're worried about me. Why you survived.
I'm sure we can find something I have that you need.
No one said me.
These guys are trained to be ghosts. Let's not waste time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. Find something that's personally important to him and you squeeze. This whole operation was a decoy. I can understand you're very upset. You've never seen me very upset. This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
So we were rewatching Mission Impossible 1, which I don't think I've seen in a few years, like maybe at least 10 years.
Yeah.
The Brian De Palma film that started the whole, I think this might have been the first thing that Tom Cruise and Paula Wagner even produced as partners. Like, I think this might be like their first thing.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
And so I was explaining stuff to my wife during it. I was like, fun fact, like the Jim Phelps character, like Jim Phelps was like the main guy on the TV show or whatever,
Yeah.
So then at the end of the movie, when he turned out to be a bad guy, I was like, you see, that's why it was such a big deal, because, people weren't expecting the hero to be
To be the bad guy.
The bad guy. So Mission Impossible does a really cool thing, which is at the very beginning of the film, you establish all these fun, the Ethan Hunt's team, and then we just kill all of them on their first mission on screen. And so it's a really fun movie. It was still fun and mysterious upon a rewatch. But the whole time my wife kept going, man, this is corny. Like things would happen. She'd just go, oh, this is so corny.
Sure.
But the film was made in 1996. It's allowed some corniness.
Yeah.
So then we watched the second one the week later.
Well, Mr. Hunt, I don't quite know where to begin.
You know me?
No. Should I?
She's got no training for this kind of thing.
But to go to bed with a man like him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
Welcome to Australia, mate.
This ain't funny.
The mother of all nightmares is on the loose.
I don't think I can do it.
You mean it'll be difficult?
Very.
Well, this is not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you.
And which was directed by John Woo. Do you remember much about this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
The second one I saw, like, I don't know, 500 times when I was in high school. Like, to me, that was the coolest movie that had ever been made.
Right.
And I've seen it so many times.
Yeah. Well, the second movie, so the first movie is about like, Ethan needing to steal back this list of, undercover agents to stop a thing because something, I don't remember.
What's the name of the list? It's called
the knock list.
Yes.
The non-official something. It's the CIA. So Mission Impossible 2 is about bioterrorism and biological weapons, and again the plot is a little muddy, but it's just Ethan Hunt getting with this thief at the beginning of the movie played by Tandy Newton, and then they're like, yeah, the reason we had you like recruit her is because she used to date this guy we're after and we want her to be a mole, and he's like, oh, now I'm attached. And so the movie's just them doing spy stuff, and I thought it was so boring upon like finishing it. I was like, man, like,
yeah,
nothing in the movie ages that well. There's so much slow motion, no dialogue of just people walking and looking at stuff.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, are we just looking like, is this the first movie shot with like a phantom camera and that's why they're doing this?
Yep.
Yeah, it was just one of those. So Mission Impossible 1 and 2, they have nostalgic factors for me. I remember the first time I saw Mission Impossible was at my friend Jack's house when we were kids, and we're like, sleeping on the floor in his living room and watching it. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm like 12. Before we went to sleep, Jack told me that in like the flicker of like the TV light, my face looked like one of those masks. It freaked me out, and so I couldn't sleep. And that movie's creepy. The first one's creepy. There's a lot of like, Ethan has a lot of like really, horrific dreams about like people covered in blood walking at him and stuff. Like, the camera's like turning and going all askew.
Yep.
Ethan, and you're like, oh, so Anyway, so that's Mission Impossible 1 and 2. So then let's compare it to Scream 1 and 2. So Scream.
Someone is playing a deadly game.
It all began with a scream over 911.
Someone who's seen one too many scary movies. Now he's taken his love of fear.
Hello?
Hello, Sydney. One step too far. Do you like scary movies?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie. Number 1, you can never have sex.
Hey, it's me.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure. I'll be right back.
He didn't make the rules.
The police are always off track. If they watch prom night, they'd save time.
He just kills by them. Don't answer the phone. Don't open the door. Don't try to hide.
Everybody's a suspect!
You're not scared, are you?
Scream.
Is a slasher movie that came out when horror was getting really dumb and silly, and there was like endless sequels and, you know, ridiculous reasons for villains to come back, and, you know, a lot of bad Friday the 13th movies, a lot of bad Halloween films, a lot of bad Freddy Krueger films, and I think it was the same year, I think 96. I don't have the years in front of me, but so Scream was directed by Wes Craven, and it's about this girl, Sydney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, who, you know, she's in high school and they live in this, I think it's supposed to be in California, but the town is Woodsboro. And then they start getting killed by this person in like a black cloak and what's known as a Ghostface mask. It looks kind of like Edvard Munch's The Scream a little bit. So they call it Scream. And I don't want to spoil the events of Scream for anyone because I really want people who haven't seen it, including you, Dustin, to go watch it. But Scream, what's charming about Scream is that just on top of just delivering as a slasher, as like people getting picked off and it's a really great whodunit. The film functions really well on mystery. Like, okay, who is the killer? And like, you know, they're throwing red herrings at you all over the place. Yeah. And whatever, you know, whatever double red herrings are, but blue herrings, they're throwing those at you too. The whole time you're like, who is the killer? Who's the killer? And, you know, Sydney's just getting freaked out and she can't trust anybody. And there's some schmaltzy like 90s stuff in there, but those are things you just have to allow for. What allows the film to age so well is that the screenplay is very aware of the tropes of horror, and they have this character played by Jamie Kennedy, the Randy character, who knows all this stuff, and so he like tells them, well, here's the rules of the slasher, and if we do follow, like, the killer appears to be following that kind of structure, so that would mean that the next person is Stu. You're gonna die next, you know, and you know, don't go anywhere alone. Don't have sex. When you leave a room, don't say I'll be right back. Like, it's all like these things that the audience is already aware of that happen in horror films. Sure. And so what it makes for is just a really fun, like, you feel like, okay, cool. Like, you know, anytime someone does something silly, they're aware of it. Scream is great.
2 Windsor College students were murdered last night during a sneak preview of the new movie Stab.
It's starting again, Randy.
This has nothing to do with us.
Randy, a guy in a ghost mask hacked up 2 people in a movie theater telling our life story.
Hi, Gail Weathers, author of the Woodsboro Murders. Do you think the killer will strike again?
We have no evidence that this is a serial killer.
It's a classic case of life imitating art, imitating life.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Do you think someone's trying to duplicate Woodsboro?
It looks like it.
I think you have a copycat on your hands, Chief.
Hello?
Hello, Sydney. Remember me?
What do you want?
I want you. It's showtime.
Police are everywhere.
There is some freaked out psycho trying to follow in Billy Loomis's footsteps. You probably already know.
The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, death scenes are always much more elaborate.
You just want to sit here and wait and see who drops next?
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Scream 2 steps it up big time. You know, our characters are in college, and so there's a different setting. But again, they're aware of the sequel. They're aware of the conventions of the horror sequel. So that's constantly referenced throughout. And it's subverted some. It's followed to the letter some. And especially as these movies go on, the less aware you are, the more aware you are of horror structure, and the more the writers are aware of horror structure, the more you don't know what's supposed to come, because you don't know if they're going to follow the trope or subvert the trope.
Subvert it. Sure.
And you don't want to think too much about it, because you're missing like people, like, giving weird reactions to things. You're like, that was weird. Is he the killer? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's just one of those movies where you find yourself like, I don't want to do anything while I watch this. I don't want to eat. I don't want to look at my phone. Like I want to watch this.
Yep.
And so it's fun. Very meta. So when you compare these two, you know, which one would I, you know, if I'm recommending, obviously any series, I feel like you need to watch all of them, but as far as which two did I enjoy more going back to watch, I'm going to give this episode to Scream. I think it was a lot more inventive. I think it aged a lot better. And if, you know, you told me like, hey, you need to watch two of these again this week, even though you just watched them like a week or two ago, which two do you want to rewatch now? Again, I'd be like Scream 1 and 2. Another thing I like about Scream.
That's big praise. I like Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible is great. But as far as the first two films, Scream 1 and 2 are really strong. And one thing that, again, so like, you know, sometimes I'll recommend movies to people, and especially I tell people like watch Scream, and some people will say, well, I don't like scary movies. Scream is not scary. Like Scream is a slasher. And there's some like creepiness and like you're waiting like, oh, you know, there's adrenaline, but you're not going to have nightmares about anything that happens in Scream. There's enough danger, but at the end, and you'll feel like the stakes are real and everything, but you won't you know, you won't turn off the movie and go to bed and be like, oh no, what if Ghostface is real? It's like, it's still enough of like a movie to where, you know, and Scream 2 already sets up early on in its opening scene that Hollywood has heard of the Woodsboro story, and they have started to make movies about it. So Scream 2 already sets up what is referenced throughout the rest of the movies, which is the Stab franchise that's made, that's based on the events of the first film. And which gives a ton of reasons for multiple copycat. It's the reason the Ghostface mask becomes ubiquitous among people in that universe. And so why seeing one on someone, or someone could just walk around in public wearing a Ghostface mask because it's like a famous thing. It's a movie prop, you know? So it's harder to find the killer as the movies go on. And there's more and more reasons why any number of people would want to assume the identity of the killer.
Right.
Last thing I'll say about it. Scream sets up, I want to get the guy's voice right. The killer is voiced by the same person in every film, even though the killer doesn't survive. The killer is different. The voice actor's name is Roger L. Jackson, and the characters in the films all use a voice changer. And the killer in the Stab movies uses the same voice in that voice changer. So no matter what, throughout 20, 30 years, every time the phone rings and someone picks it up, and it's, you know, especially if it's Neve Campbell, my favorite line in any of these movies that have her in it is, "Hello, Sydney." And it's Roger L. Jackson's voice. And I'm just like, I do a shot. I'm like, yes, there it was. You know, it's one of the most iconic lines to me, period, just because of that guy's voice.
I just had to look it up, but I was correct in my hunch that Roger L. Jackson is the voice of Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls.
Yes, he is. It's crazy.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, it was 96. I was right. All right. So the same year, those two films came out, those two franchises began. And, you know, Mission, we'll talk about the later Mission movies and the later Scream movies later. But, you know, as far as the first two go, I'll give it to Scream.
Sweet.
Dustin, if you got Paramount Plus, I give a high recommendation, especially by the next time we record these, because I'd be interested to know your thoughts about them. Just, I think as a writer, you'll sit there and be like, you sons of bitches, you did it, you know?
You subverted it.
You did it.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right.
Sweet.
And if anyone listening has not watched Mission Impossible or Scream, I recommend all of these. Here's my excuse to remind you to watch these movies, and I'll be back in a week to tell you about the third and fourth films about each of them.
Sweet.
So
cool, man.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.